Hello, fellow watchers and enjoyers. Ash here. No Piggy this time. We'll get onto that later. Here for another edition of the Watching Walford podcast. Now, you may say it's a little bit weird having a podcast with just one of yous, but don't you worry. Piggy has sent in his notes for the episode, so there will be intertwined bits of Piggy during the podcast, just what it's going to go. But I'll do the standard introductions. This is going to be Watching Walford episode number 143, and today's episodes are going to cover the biggest storylines and takeaways from week 39 of 2025, or the episodes from the 22nd of September all the way to the 25th. The main topics this week are Newcomer Jasmine arrives, Peter's eye wonders for Demi, Stacey gets a huge offer, and Sharon Watts' blinding return. So all right, so why is Piggy not here? Essentially, he's in London right now. He's actually, I think as of when this is being recorded, he was currently going through airport security. So yeah, he's off on a trip, seeing one of his mates. Gonna do a Spider-Man trilogy watch through in the cinema. So, you know, we have been big leagued by Piggy. Who knew? Who knew 2 years ago this was going to be the case? But yeah, this is going to be me doing the podcast. So if you watch any of the solo stuff or the rest of the channel, probably is going to be mostly me and just all me. So Ash fans will rejoice. This is the introduction. I will also be having to do all the production, but then it's just looking at my face, which I do apologize for. The skin's having a bit of a meltdown. Did get a new jacket though. Let's go. But yeah, I do apologize for the old face. The skin's having an absolute nightmare. But this is a Watching Walford podcast. I used to pray for days like these. I used to pray for times where I'd be like, oh, Piggy, say you can't be bothered to do the podcast. I'll do it by myself. I will. But it's been such a long time since I don't even do the weekly recaps of the shows anymore. So, you know, this one might be a struggle, but I've gotten the notes. I've gotten notes for the first time in Watching Walford history. I have notes. That's untrue. We did used to do notes, but it was horrific. But yeah, I'll talk more about in the after show. But I think with all that typically said, though, let's get on to the main topic. And by main topic, I mean first topic. I'm already stumbling over my words. So, in this week's episodes, we get a newcomer. We have a newcomer. I believe in the episode, she is called something like... Her name's Jasmine. Her name is Jasmine, and she does have a name credited in the comment section, in the credits, in the comment section. She is called Jasmine Fisher. So far, that's who she is. So she's introduced in the episode, and she kind of comes in. She's eyeing up a job. She essentially is headhunting the job at the Albert. She is like, hey, Cindy, even though I don't know you, hey, you should give me a job. Because essentially, Freddie is hot garbage at his job, and he can't pull a drink without people like turning around and not looking at him. Cindy has to deal with the Slaters, who are wind-up merchants at the best of times, and fundamentally, they're just useless. He's just useless. So she does the old lipstick on a glass trick, where she says, "Oh, this wasn't clean." Elaine doesn't fall for it, but Cindy kind of happily throws Freddie into the proverbial fire and says, "You're fired," which does lead to Jean kind of baby burden Freddie like, Did you fire my son? Well, did you fire my nephew? I don't know the relation. All the Slaters are related some way. How dare you fire my boy? And then Cindy's like, yeah, but he was shit though. Yeah, well, that's illegal. Yeah, but he was garbage, and I gave him tons of verbal warnings. So maybe this is how Freddie, takes the plunge into the job the job search. What's it called? The job center. Christ. Oh, blimey. Here we go. A little intertwining note from Piggy. Piggy said, Will say loved Jean basically puppy dogging Freddie and giving out to Cindy for firing, even if Freddie was doing an absolute shit job and deserved to be fired. And also Oscar sees her on a dating app and he is smitten. He is, he kind of goes to Peter and Laura like, guys, I think I'm in love, which is, he is certainly Max's son. She jokes with Elaine and Cindy, and Oscar claims he's in love. She does kind of have a good dynamic. Like, she has good scenes with Cindy and Elaine and Oscar. Like, she is kind of quick-witted and quite smart, but is also quite guarded in its own right. Like, Elaine goes and asks her, hey, we are going to need your paperwork, so give me all the paperwork and we can make it official. Otherwise, you're not getting the job. But she just turns up the day after anyways, and they don't talk about it. So maybe she did. Maybe they didn't. And she also is kind of collecting a bunch of information on Cindy and is collecting a bunch of information on just everyone, really. She's kind of journaling a bunch of oh, Cindy, how many kids you have? Wait, oh, you're iconic, you are. And it's what is the ulterior motive here is my question. And obviously that will come to find out. And yeah, Cindy essentially says, hey, you need to stay away from Oscar. Oscar is a wrong un. He's a criminal. And then she's like, all right, Oscar. And then Oscar says, look, I'm nice, but I'm not a good boy. Look at my ankle tag. And she says, yeah, well, Cindy shot her husband 2 months ago, so grow up. And they share a kiss. They share a kiss or two. And yeah, she has a pretty good introduction. I think Jasmine's pretty good. I think she works. I think she's fitted right in. Obviously, the subreddit will never tell you that. The subreddit will never tell you that. They will say that she is horrendous and awful and absolutely kind of crazy. But yeah, and obviously there'll be more about me complaining about the subreddit later on, but I've got some big problems with the subreddit currently, and I'm getting very wound up by it. And not to start it here because it will happen later on, prepare yourselves. But you want new characters because you don't like the current characters being used, or you hate Zoe Slater because you wanted an iconic character return, but it's not the one iconic character you wanted this week. So you say she's shit and she's garbage and she is horrific. So now you are simply just slating everyone. And look, Jasmine is a good introduction. I think she's a cool character. I think she's got potential. They didn't even do a big press release for her inclusion. She's just showing up out of nowhere. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm pretty intrigued to see what it is. And we also saw Demi, who I'll talk about later as well. But the subreddit just kind of, it's a 50-50 pull on any day to decide whether they like people or they don't. And it's annoying. And I really dislike how vitriolic it is. And I say this, I should just stop reading it alternatively. But also I kind of need to read it for Reddit videos. And, I try to not be overtly that negative, and I've been trying to, balance myself out so I'm not just shitting all over it. But, it's so... I don't think anything could unite the subreddit. I don't think anything could do it. Nothing could. If Shirley returned, and Shirley's one of the returns that everybody's been clamoring out for. if Shirley returned, you'd have 20 minutes of like, oh my God, this is great. We love you, Shirley Legend. Even though Shirley probably will also be more in the Zoe Slater camp of being miserable and snarking at everyone. But you like it when your favorite characters be miserable and snark everyone like Sharon. But not characters who just return. And I guarantee within 20 minutes of Shirley's return, people will go, unpopular opinion. I've never liked Shirley. I think she's a cow. It's like, oh, guys, just fuck. Can we get some peace, please? Can we get 5 minutes of peace where you don't have to dog on every single member of cast ever in like the most backwards, terrible insults? Like, I just think they're garbage. I think they're a terrible actor. It's EastEnders. You're not expecting Hamlet soliloquy. Just winds me up. Just winds me up. But I think Jasmine's a cool new introduction. I think I like her. I don't know what she's going to do. I won't lie. But I'll give you Piggy's thoughts on Jasmine. It says, Jasmine, I'm really hoping the modern day stalker Sarah. Oh wait, no. This is about Peter and Demi. I'm also looking forward to seeing Jasmine and Oscar's romance flinging everywhere. I don't really know what else to say. So, yes. Yeah, I like Jasmine. I think she fits in. I think she had a great introduction. I think she had great scenes with everyone she was in, and it's all moved very quickly. But if you're involved with Oscar Brannon, but I also think that she's kind of rivaling Elaine and Cindy, and I'm just so glad that the Albert gets to be fleshed out with Elaine and Cindy at the helm, because the issue with the Albert before is you have Kathy there, but Kathy isn't really there to be like landlady of the Albert. She's just there because it's her business. So like you need those big impactful players to be at the helm. Otherwise, yeah, you just go under the radar and don't get used. So I am infinitely impressed at the balancing act of having like three basically bars on the square, and they all actually get a really good amount of usage. So fair play, Ben Wadey. Good job with that. All right, so with that said, though, let's get into the next topic. That is Peter's eye wonders for Demi. Another newcomer. So, another newcomer. And once again, another newcomer that wasn't reported on. I am immediately excited because Peter essentially has to go to baby Jimmy's sensory classes, which is, I assume, a way to try and get someone who is sight impaired to kind of, and I'm sure it applies to people of like with other difficulties, where you kind of try to get them to engage in its class to kind of like help show how it works. Now, at this class, Peter runs into Demi, who is a single mum, who also happens to be a burlesque dancer, and she has some immediate chemistry with Peter. And Peter is a weak man, and so am I. But Peter is a weak man, and all Peter needs is like a slight sultry look in his direction, and he is in love. So, and it's always the kind of funny thing where it's like, just because of how Peter and Lauren have been this constant revolving door, it's so mental that, and it's mostly just because of Clenshaw's prodding, but they've just gotten happy. Peter and Lauren have just gotten through the last crisis. Now Demi's here, and now suddenly Peter's like, and they go out for drinks later. It's like, oh, Peter, not again. And like, I don't even know if he can be helped because he is Ian Beale's son. But like, Peter, for fuck's sake, stop it. You've just gotten your engagement back on track. Then you see one woman who does burlesque, and suddenly you're like fluttering your eyelashes. He does go to Ian for some advice though, and Ian. See, I think the best part about current Ian is both a gammon, who is the like middle-aged men who think they are hard done by and don't understand current society and political issues. Um, but because he's kind of established himself to be what Pete Beale was in '85, he is just a bit of a crotchety middle-aged man. And so Peter talks to, so Ian talks to Peter, saying, Peter's like, look, I met a woman at the sensory classes, and we had a good connection, and I gave her my number. And Ian says, look, it's always, as a Beale, we just know it's in the genes that you are a magnet for women. But because it's Ian, and because he has been saying, like, oh, you can't say anything these days, you know, all that sort of stuff, it's until he has his cheeky little grin where he'll go, oh, he's laughing, he's joking. Whoo. He's joking, don't have to break it to him. And for the first time in Peter's life, Ian gives him some good advice. He goes, Dad, what would you do? She sent me a text and, you know, and Ian just goes, I wouldn't respond. And obviously Peter goes, well, I already responded. See ya. It's like, Peter, for God's sake, man, be better. Be better than Ian. So Peter also doesn't let Lauren know that Demi. He says, "Oh, I met someone at the classes, and they actually seemed quite nice, and we got along really well." And Lauren just goes, "Oh, well, it's nice that you're making some dad friends." And Peter just kind of gently lets it lie, just like, yeah, dad friends. And so Peter meets up with Demi, and they go for a little drink. And honestly, the date was quite nice. They kind of joke about what they do. Peter acts like he's rock and roll, and Demi kind of comes on a little bit strong, like, you know, as long as you're not, you aren't boring. Kind of like holds his hand and like puts her hand on his chest. And in the end, they have a really nice date. And at this point, I know I shouldn't insert myself in this, but I too would be willing to risk it all for Demi. I'm a weak man. I'm a weak man. If I was Peter, I'd be willing to risk everything. So, look, we all get charmed. We all get charmed. We all have weaknesses. So Peter kind of lets it lie, and they don't really talk about it. But you know, they do have a quite nice like ending to the date. She holds his chest, and she's like, I hope we do this again. He still obviously mentions that he has a Lauren. But Demi doesn't seem too fussed about it. And Penny sees this little cozy end of date go down, and she's like, yo, what the fuck, homie? What the fuck? What are you doing this for? And then at Johnny's party, they're doing like an open mic night, and Peter really crudely plays It's All About You by McFly. Funnily enough, it is also about oh wait, hold on, I even missed it. I even missed the important bit. So after the date, he goes home, and Lauren's going to a party, but he ambushes Lauren and says, Lauren, get naked. Lauren, get naked. We're having some fun. Takes his shirt off. Get naked, Lauren. And they just have a little bit of fun. And Lauren's just kind of smitten, really. It seemed like it was the boost that she needed, and she is just very happy. And then he plays It's All About You by McFly. And ironically, I believe McFly was what Danny Jones, the lead singer, also famously cheated on his wife not too long ago. And, you know, just did happen. Did indeed happen. So let's just leave that there. So he plays It's All About You at Callum's party. And honestly, Lauren is so... I love Lauren, honestly. They've made such a good job of making Lauren actually really kind of lovable. And I adore Lauren, and I hate Peter for what he keeps putting her through. But I also kind of love it because it is messy and it is ridiculous. And so Peter's obviously singing because he's just been learning it. And Lauren is like holding the phone, recording his performance like the most proud parent. It's like, yes. You know, like the closest bit is it's almost like she would have been mouthing the words if she was any happier. Just like the biggest smile on her face recording her soon to be fiance. And but whilst this is happening, Lauren sees a text from Demi who says like, thanks for our drink, X. And she honestly, Lauren doesn't care. Lauren does not care whatsoever. Lauren just like, meh. Thought it was quite hot that people find you sexy, Peter. Like, I mean, you know, guilty. Guilty as charged. And Penny's like, oh yeah, I know. So bad that you did this. And then the nightmare blunt rotation comes in though. As the day after, Penny is talking about Demi, who then proceeds to send Demi a message saying, hey, we should get coffee, Lauren. And so Lauren, Penny, and Demi all then have a coffee talking about Peter. Well, they're kind of like, isn't it funny that you think my boyfriend's sexy? And it's like, what? Isn't it funny that you like Demi just kind of opened it? Yeah, I thought it's quite sexy, really. Oh, fair enough. And they have a nice little conversation, but Peter sees this, gets a little bit embarrassed, little bit sheepish, and kind of vanishes. Then he's feeling what he thinks he should feel, because he's like, Lauren should be really angry at me for doing this, but she's not, and I'm very confused. So yeah, Lauren goes after Peter, who's like, I don't understand why you're not upset with me. And Lauren just goes, look, as long as you're not like playing into it, as long as you're not like encouraging it, like I'm fine with it. I actually think it's quite hot that people find you attractive because, you know, you are like, we are together. And she says, I want more surprises and passion. And obviously Peter, being Peter fucking Beale, he does the absolute opposite and says, look, I'm going to plan a secret wedding. Oh, for fuck's sake, Peter, why? Why are you like this, Peter? Why are you like this? Just have sex more. It's all I'm sure that'll suffice. Just go on a few more dates. Don't get married immediately. Like, wouldn't she want to be a part of the marriage process and actually start planning it? Like, just Peter's just an absolute melt. It's unreal. But I do love him and Lauren together. So I think to kind of piece it all together at the end, though, what do I think of Demi? I like Demi. I thought she was charming. I thought she had a good dynamic with Peter. I enjoyed her conversation with Lauren and Penny. And honestly, I'd love to see her kind of continue to show up, and we see if Peter is gonna stray from his engagement and stray from the side, or we kind of see we see like how, where am I trying to go with this? We see how everybody reacts. I like Demi. I want to see where this goes. I don't know where it goes, but there is someone who thought they knew where it goes. And Piggy says, I'm really hoping the modern day stalker Sarah Cairns stuff happens with Demi and Peter, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Also, he said, I enjoyed this new character introduction, I think called Debbie, which is not her name. So couldn't be Piggy completely fumbling the names, like how he calls Ian, like he calls Adam Woodyak. So you can't teach an Irishman to get names correctly. But yeah, I don't know. It was good fun though. I like Demi. I like Peter. I kind of enjoy. I enjoy. They're 2 for 2 in good newcomers currently. I'll argue that much. I want to see more of Demi. I wouldn't mind her becoming an actual character on the show. She doesn't have the last name in the credit, so who knows if she spends any more time here, or whether it was just to facilitate this kind of surprise wedding. But yeah, I like Demi. I hope she keeps up. I'd love to see her and Lauren actually become friends. And if we do get a Stalker Sarah Ken storyline, like Piggy suggests, I would be here for it, because that is one of my favorite storylines of all time. So yeah, cool stuff. Honestly, enjoyed it a lot. They've done a really good job at rebuilding Lauren and Peter for me. Because I love Lauren, and I was always an Abby stan, so it feels a little bit foreign to me to actually really like Lauren. But they've genuinely done a really good job at making her a character you actively want to invest in. And Peter, somewhat similar, but also I'm also kind of always, I like Peter, but I'm also sick of Peter in the same way. Like, I think Lauren does actually deserve better, but ultimately, if Peter and Lauren split up, who's she going to get with? Zach, who also has his laundry list of problems. So, like, I don't know. It's that kind of like, if Lauren and Peter weren't like childhood sweethearts, I doubt they would actually be together. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Like, I kind of love it, but I kind of hate it. I wouldn't like, because I do think Lauren and Peter should be the end game, and they should be together forever, even with all the problems. Because if you take like what 50 years down the line, like, wouldn't it be really cool to have this? Yeah, sure, messy relationship, but not all relationships are smooth sailing. But I do genuinely kind of love Peter and Lauren. I hate how Peter tries to fix his relationship, and I think he's an idiot. But I do really like Lauren. So, yeah, there we are. That's that segment. Now let's talk about Stacey's huge offer. The next 2 segments, I thought these segments were going to be short. These segments have been pretty long, so probably going to be a little bit shorter with the next one. But yes, Stacey gets a huge offer. Just to reflect, I do like Demi. I do like Peter and Lauren. I do like Penny. I like all of the above. I still see people still hate Penny for the same reasons. If people hate Penny as if she's genuinely being like facetious. People hate Penny as if she's actually being a bitch, when that's just her humor. So I don't know. It's just like it's just the thing where if you don't like someone, you're obviously not going to like their humor, and that applies so heavily on soap characters, because half of Penny's entire shtick is her humor, which is the best bit about the character. But if you don't like Penny, you're not going to like her humor. So yeah, just annoying, really. Like, just give her a chance, guys. Just give her a chance. But hey, we're not going to like every character. Some characters will inevitably wind you up. The one thing I did find funny, I kind of wish I could get as invested in soap characters as some people do, because like the second that Peter had a date with Demi and then went back and slept with Lauren, people were like vitriolic, like, I can't believe Peter did that. He's just like men. And, you know, because it happened to me, because it happened to Lauren, I'm so disgusted. He makes me gag. He makes me sick. I wish I could get that invested in these characters. I just can't. I don't know. I think it's part of the autism, really. It's always like I'm watching through like a visor, where I can't really get that invested. Well, I would love to, but ultimately, meh, just how it is, just who I am, just how I engage with things. Like I've only actively genuinely despised like one soap character over the last like the entire time that I've been watching, and maybe two, maybe Reese and JJ Osborne from Hollyoaks. But it's always funny. I kind of wish I could do that, but I also do look at it like, Jesus, guys, do you want to calm down? But yeah, let's get to the next topic though. That being Stacey getting a huge offer. So we always knew that Stacey was going to be leaving at some point in this year, and honestly, I wasn't expecting it to come out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it to crop up out of the blue. It was always it's just kind of bizarre for me, and I am just very uncertain as to what it is. And hold on, sorry, I've been distracted 1 second. All right, sorry, we're back. All right, I'm no longer. I pulled up Digital Spy and looked up some news articles. Like, stop it! There's a podcast to be doing. So yeah, this one's probably going to be a bit shorter because there's not really as much. This one's kind of tacked on. But Stacey gets a huge offer. So Sean has been in touch, and he now owns a restaurant in Brazil, and he wants Stacey, Lily, and the kids to go with her. They are initially really excited to go to Brazil. I forgot what my lane was going to go, but I now remembered it. But then they have to start thinking about the family. Jean is initially very upset at not being included, as are the entire audience. Likewise, Piggy said, Stacey, I don't know what to expect. I'm glad she's getting a break, but I'm not glad Jean's not going with her. But yeah, so like we always knew that Stacey was going to leave because it was announced it was announced a good chunk in advance about Lacey Turner's exit, and I'm still uncertain about whether it is an actual long-term exit or just a break, because the way they talked about it, they said, no, it is a proper break, but everybody has interpreted it as an extended break. But like, guys, this is what we did with Shirley, and Shirley isn't back. So I don't know. Maybe I interpreted it wrong. Maybe I'm the one who doesn't know this vital bit of information. But like, as far as I was concerned, this was a proper break for Stacey, and this is a proper exit, and we're not going to be seeing her for a good chunk of time. But maybe it is just going to be like a year of maternity leave or something. So I don't know. But yeah, so they're putting her exit in motion though. I'm pretty sure I already made a short to this effect, and I'm a little skeptical. I know that Stacey, maybe it isn't a proper break, maybe it isn't a proper exit, because if it was, you would imagine it would be a big storyline that would culminate at Christmas or New Year. But if Stacey is actively just leaving, like in the middle of September, at the start of October, in a random week, I'm a little bit skeptical. I've just spat everywhere, excuse me. I'm a little skeptical. I'm a little upset with that because it's Stacey. She has been one of your greatest characters that you still have on retainer. And the fact that you would just have her be kind of ousted in some random week in October or September with no real build up to it, I'm a little confused. And I'm not entirely on board. And maybe you don't get a choice. Maybe she goes, no, I need to leave. I want to be a mum. That's fine. But like, just have her film some little intertwined bits. Just film ahead with the Stacey stuff and let her film all the Christmas stuff early, and then have her just leave. And you film it all early. She gets to go be a mum and gets to raise a newborn. And I don't know, just I'm a little conflicted with the Stacey exit as such. We do get a surprisingly serious conversation with Ricky, where Lily has to tell Ricky that I'm going to move to Brazil with baby Charlie. And because Ricky has just like allowed his hair to grow out, Piggy thought that Ricky got recast because Piggy doesn't understand the concept of puberty. Like he looks at younger Tommy like, that's not the same guy. Yeah, it is. So, and we get a nice little thing where Ricky's been like, hey, we need to sign up. There's like a year waiting list for nurseries, and the time's coming up soon. And Lily's like, hey, we don't need to do that. And then she says, we're going to move to Brazil. And then Jack's like, what? You can't take away their kids. Can't take away his kids. He's got rights. And then Ricky just kind of goes, look, if you think it's best for Charlie, I don't want them growing up around all this grief. I'll still be a dad and we can still do visits and stuff. I'm fine with it. Like, obviously it'll be sad, but he is surprisingly okay with it. And he has a surprisingly adult conversation, which might mark the first adult conversation that Ricky has ever had on the show. Like, kind of crazy, honestly. It was really good, though. Like, really intriguing. God, I've just realized the framing's been garbage the whole time. But yeah, like, very nice. But because Stacey kind of leaves Lily in the lurch, Lily gets pretty frustrated and says, look, you can go to Brazil, but I'm not fucking going. And yeah, it's just weird. And Lily essentially says, you should take your own kid's life seriously rather than kind of potting around Zoe. And I don't mind this exit. It is a bit weird, but I guess it's always the thing you can do with off-screen characters. It's the right time for Stacey to have a break. I do agree. I do think it's a little bit sad that, there are going to be some Max and Stacey scenes. We can't lie. Like, obviously that secret will blow up and she'll leave. But it is a bit of a shame that we don't get this extended story with them at this point in time, after all this time, with all of the things that have gone down since. And obviously I'm a little sad that Jean's not going with Stacey, because Jean has been probably one of the most unlikable characters throughout this entire year. And she's still not getting better. We are really just getting quite a bitter Jean. And it's not undoing a lot of the progress, but it is undoing a lot of the really goodwill that you kind of you have with Jean, because Jean's a character who occasionally gets a really, really big storyline, often with her bipolar disorder, and it kind of makes everybody realize, hey, Jean is genuinely a really talented actress, and she probably deserves awards when this happens. But for the most part, we're not going to give Jean's big storylines every single year. It feels like it's undoing a lot of the progress we made with Jean. But obviously, it's not like she's unfixable. She definitely is fixable. We just have to make her a bit less bitter, make her a bit less miserable, give her something to be happy about. And seeing her family crumble around her, probably not the best way to do this. But who knows? I'm sure she could be fixed. Once she has to stand on her own 2 feet, and she can't just kind of be like a bossy, a nagging mum, she'll probably be a little bit better, or she'll get axed. So, yeah. But yeah, Piggy says, Stacey, I don't know what to expect. I'm glad she's getting a break. I'm not glad Jean's not going with it. And did Ricky get recast? Anyways, I enjoyed some aspects of this week. Sad to see where everything goes and what follows, especially when Max returns for a short stint next week. Yeah, Max is seemingly back on the square next week. So that's going to be an interesting one to see. But yeah, kind of underwhelmed by the Stacey exit storyline. But I think that kind of sad, but I'm also excited. Where am I? What am I trying to say here? What am I trying to say? Sorry. I'm a little sad that Stacey's exit may be taking place on a random week in October or September, but I'm excited to see the kind of space that it gives up, because Stacey's been such a polarizing figure, and Stacey's a character who gives storylines every year. You know, if she wants it, if she's happy to take on the mantle of big storylines. We know like characters like Phil kind of took a back seat for a couple of years, but like if you're content to get storylines, Stacey is a character who is always going to have really strong writing around her. And because she's going to be gone, now we're going to see what the Slaters look like without their star, without their MVP for the last 20 years. Because Kat fell to the wayside, Stacey rose up, and then when Kat got brought back, Kat basically floundered around for a good 5-6 years and has only really started to become a proper character again since, what, the 2020s? So, yeah. Obviously, all this attention is probably going to stay with Zoe, which is probably the right move and a great character to take it in. I know people have some issues with Zoe that I will get into, but I think it's just what it is. We're taking away Stacey, we're bringing in Zoe. Some people have never seen Zoe. Some people will just hate Zoe out of principle, and some people are just. Some people just like to have the counter opinion, which is usually me. But yeah, gonna be sad to see Stacey gone, and it's definitely gonna leave a bit of a hole. But I definitely think there is the amount of talent there to be filled in Stacey's absence, and we're also gonna see who kind of levels up their game to kind of be the talisman, the pillar, the stability of the Slater family. Because without Stacey, over the last 20 years, the Slaters are a dead family walking. So yeah, let's get into the final topic, that being Sharon Watts' return. So Sharon returned after her fairly long time off after the anniversary. Typically something that she gets to do. I think it's obviously not to talk out of school and speculate out of what you should be speculating over. But obviously, Sharon, from what everybody kind of talks about, Sharon takes care of her mother who is sick and ill, but also she's been on the show since the start. She is allowed to go ahead and she's allowed to take time off and have a good couple months off, because Sharon is Sharon and she is iconic in her own right. I still have issues with Sharon as a character as such, because the writing for Sharon is always pretty weak. Well, it's not that. It's that the direction for Sharon is pretty weak. You just have Sharon exist, but you don't really want to make any permanent changes to said character. And obviously, I'll still have this thing. I still argue that by killing off Demi was a pretty bad mistake, simply because by killing off Demi, you kind of cut off the aspect of the character that I think would really fit modern Sharon. And that is to see Sharon having to kind of pot around after her asshole son, who is probably causing trouble, probably getting involved in crime, and is probably nothing like the Demi she claims to have brought up. So I think that's my issue with Sharon. But she does return and she does get a lot of praise. Obviously, she returns, gets told that Zoe is back, and she kind of, because she's like the gatekeeper, she's been here for so long, she's like, oh, I'll take it and say she has to leave. And so she goes to say, you've got to go. We can't be dealing with you here. You're, like, basically says you're not allowed back because Sharon said so. What? Said you're not allowed because Sharon said so. What? Sorry. Wrestling reference. And Zoe had a fantastic week as well, because we had the continuation of Vicky and Zoe. So Sharon basically yells at Vicky saying, where the fuck's my money? And then Vicky goes, oh, well, Ross is working really hard for that money, so we're trying, Sharon. Just give us more time. And Sharon's like, you've had months. You've had months. You've not made a scratch off of that debt. And you've not made a scratch off that debt. So Vicky's already pissed off. I don't remember why Zoe's pissed off. So they have a little confrontation. And this can be a really niche reference. But you know in like Christmas 2008 where Sean sings like Calvary, and he's doing the little march. Vicky is marching out of this calf, storming away, and she sees Zoe, and Zoe just lays in. They barge into each other like, back off, and he's like, now you back off. And then Zoe's like, your dad never loved you. It's like, it's so mental that like Zoe goes straight to, your dad never loved you. You were never first choice in anyone. They always love Zoe and Dennis more. Which is true. It is true. And then it goes into a full fight where Zoe pushes Vicky over. Vicky pushes Zoe, and then you think it's gonna stop there. Then Zoe says some more shit like, yeah, well, your dad was gross anyway. I don't remember what exactly she says. So then it lines up. Zach tries to hold Vicky back. Vicky smashes Zach in the nose. And then we get like an office level zoom in where Zach's like, oh, my nose. What to the face? And then Zoe loads up what can only be described as like an uppercut, but a slap. Like a prime, like WWE wrestler Kane uppercut straight to the chin. Straight to the chin, which floors Zoe. And like, it's just it's such a good fight scene. If you've not watched this fight scene, watch it. It's fantastic. Because like Zoe loads up this like, yeah, it's like absolutely chins her one with an uppercut. 10 out of 10 fight. Absolutely fantastic fight so far. If I hit what Piggy said about this, he's you know, I'll get into it at the end, but yeah, that uppercut was fantastic. Piggy says the fight scene between Vicky and Zoe is 10 out of 10. It was absolutely fantastic. What a fight scene. Where it would have ended in Chris Clenshaw's era, it just continued. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely fantastic. And obviously, Sharon being a little bit miffed. She says she goes to Sharon, she goes to Vicky and is like, no, names. Sharon goes to Zoe, who's in the Vic, and essentially goes, hey, you need to fucking leave. I was willing to accept you here after Den. I was willing to accept you. But now that you've fought my cousin or my sister, you need to leave. And then Zoe goes, yeah, well, it won't be the first time. Your dad was a dirty old fecker. Doesn't say that specifically. Your dad was a dirty old bastard. And then she mentions her kids. And then Zoe goes, look. And Sharon goes, look, my dad was not the dad. You had that baby aborted. And then Zoe says, yeah, but Den wasn't the dad. Your Dennis was. Oh, what the fuck? What? What do you mean? What a crazy revelation that is. And I've seen people absolutely lose their shit. I've seen people lose their motherfucking mind about this. Because like, oh, you're ruining Dennis's character. Like, guys, you're not making him a nonce. You're not saying, oh, you know, Dennis, he wasn't actually nice and he was actually a prick. You're not doing the Gavin Sullivan to Den Watts where you try to argue that Gavin was actually Sharon's real dad, and Den only said hello, princess, because Gavin told him to. I honestly, because they got rid of Denny, which I still think is a big problem. Not because I love Denny, because Denny was garbage, but because by getting rid of Denny, you missed out on this big time. I already went through it anyway, so I don't need to go through it again. But there were always way too little links to Dennis Rickman on the show. Now, there's obviously, first, there's a big option that Zoe is lying to get money, which I think is an option. And second, even if she isn't lying, I don't care. I like Sharon and Dennis. I think they are one of the best true love stories in EastEnders history that wasn't necessarily ruined. And I don't really think it gets ruined, because essentially the whole story behind Zoe and Dennis sleeping together is, yes, Dennis wouldn't touch her because he was in love with Sharon. But, you know, before she left, he saw her one last time where she told the truth about everything. Then they may have had a little mistake, a drunken fumble, and twins were born. So I'm not against it, because I don't think this greatly ruins the story. I don't think it does, because, like, at the end of the day, the only thing that keeps the story kind of glowing is the fact that Dennis died. Because if they were still together, or like Nigel Harmon didn't leave the show, it would have been ruined anyways. So I don't think it ruins Dennis and Sharon. I like that there will be more legacy for Dennis if, you know, Zoe's like boy is still out there, and he is even a lick of what Dennis was. I'm really excited to see that. And especially in comparison to what Denny turned out to be. Sharon being a mum, probably not the best idea. But I'm not against it. I am not against it. I'm for it. I think it's a cool twist. It doesn't destroy Sharon and Dennis, although everybody claims to say they love it, but I guarantee a bunch of people never watched it. And yeah, it was the kind of perfect bitchy move to do. And Sharon talks with Kathy and Ian about what to do. And in return, Sharon essentially offers Zoe a chance to find her kid. So I think that's pretty interesting. I like the idea of the kind of uniting of two people who clearly don't like each other and never will like each other, but united with a common goal in finding the relative, or, like, you know, finding Dennis's kid. Now, obviously, Zoe, when talking about it, Zoe recognizes that she doesn't want Sharon involved. She just wants to be a mum. She doesn't want Sharon involved, but she also needs the money, essentially. And Kat kind of sits with Zoe, and they go and plan a forget-me-not for the baby girl who died, unfortunately. And they plant one for the baby girl to kind of have a memorial for her, and then pledges, we will find your son. And it's a really nice scene. So that's all the storyline stuff. One thing I'm going to have a little bit of a rant about right now is I am sick of the Reddit, and I'm sick of how ridiculously antagonistic Zoe. I'm so upset about how ridiculously antagonistic that the reception of Zoe has been. I think it's been horrific, because you bring back Zoe Slater after 20 years, a character who should have been so much better than she ended up being because she left before she could really flourish. And you bring her back. It's a genuine star return of an iconic character who never really got to that stage. But because it was 20 years ago, a whole lot of people probably haven't even watched that much Zoe. I've not even watched that much Zoe. I watched bits of Zoe around the Den Watts exit, and I watched a bit of the introduction of the Slaters, but I've not watched a lot of Zoe Slater. And you bring her back, and this is a big deal. It's a really big scalp for EastEnders to take, because we never thought this was going to be possible. And the response has been criminal. Like, you get all the typical hallmarks of the subreddit. You get all the different hallmarks of everything, where it's like, hot take, I don't even like Zoe. She's actually just a bitch. It's like, yeah, great. Hot take, I don't even care about why Zoe's so snidey. Why is she so bitchy? Why is she so snarky? It's like, yes, she is all these things, but like, she has had a shit life, and I'm pretty sure a video is coming out to that effect fairly soon. But like, Zoe has had a rough life. She is a product of essay by an uncle to his niece, then is raised as a sister to her mother. Then when it's revealed that her sister is her mother, they have a horrendously toxic relationship and never really make it. And then she gets involved with Dennis Rickman, a man who doesn't love her because he loves Sharon. Then she gets involved with Den Watts, who manipulates and coerces her into sleeping with him to get pregnant, aborts the baby, then is involved in his death, then has twins, one of whom dies, and then she spent the last 20 years running away from the fact that she had twins and one of them died. And she's clearly not made up. She's clearly gone into a major spiral of self-hatred and a major kind of problem and a major issue with everything. She isn't in a good place. And everybody was excited when we initially got her back for that, like, when they show that she's behind the door, she shows that she's here. But since she returned, everybody's turned on it. And I don't just, like, guys, this is something truly good. This is something truly fantastic. And it's the subreddit. The subreddit doesn't really care about history. It just cares about who is the most annoying and who's not. And yeah, sure, Zoe is not a kind of likable character right now. She is in damage control, yelling at everyone, snarking at everyone. But like, guys, these are most of your favorite characters. That's what Linda did throughout the entirety of 2024. That's what Stacey does with anyone she dislikes. This is what Kat does to anyone. This is what Cindy does. She has all of the hallmarks of a fantastic character, and we just need to see where these twists go. And once we see where these twists go, then we can actually decide whether it was worth it. But this immediate switch on Zoe Slater's absolute insanity, and I don't get it. Because this is who you kind of expected her to be. This is who we expected her to be with everything they established when she was set to return. And she will get better, and she probably won't always be this miserable, because at some point she will find her kid. And at some point she will actually tell everyone, maybe Dennis isn't the dad, or maybe it's someone else. And then we find out who the kid is. And then we get to see them kind of struggle to build this relationship because he probably feels quite abandoned. Like, how can you not see this as good? That's my problem. That's my problem. Like, and I made the joke earlier that if Shirley returns, the subreddit would rejoice for 20 minutes and then somebody would say, hot take, never actually liked Shirley, don't think she's a good character. It's like, guys, this is good stuff. She's only been back, a month maximum? She's only actually been on our screens properly for like a month, ish. Just crazy. Just winds me up, honestly. Like, you wouldn't know a good thing if it looked you in the face. And it's not even the fact that they're all critiquing it. They're saying, oh, she's a terrible actor. She's fucking not, though. She's not. She's great. She's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulder. All these secrets that are gonna come out. We just have to wait for it in typical soap fashion for them to come out. She's not gonna come back and reveal all the secrets in the first 2 minutes. Why the fuck else would we anticipate it for? Like, nah. Just ridiculous. I'm so fed up of it, man. I'm so unbelievably sick of it. It's unreal. I love Zoe. She's great. She is carrying the Slater family. She's carrying this presence. She is a headliner character. She is. She genuinely is. And they've set up some really interesting ways that this story can go. They're not going to reveal it all immediately, because what's the fucking point? It's a soap that goes on every year round. Oh, blimey. That was a little bit negative, but simply saying I'm just a bit annoyed by, like, it's just have some perspective, guys. EastEnders is still really good. It's not groundbreaking. It's not 2023 Chris Glenshaw, but it's really still fucking good. Coronation Street and Hollyoaks would cry out for shit like this. Hollyoaks, you can't have an established plot line because Hannah Cheers will change it if she doesn't think it fits the current story. And Corrie, it's fighting against a bunch of bad will that Ian McLeod thrust on. It's not even Kate Brooks' fault. It's not even her fault. She has to deal with the shit that was left last year. The amount of cast members that left because Ian McLeod had about 4 years of shit. 4 years of garbage. But because so many cast members left, now you have to write in a bunch of exits and I have to make a bunch of characters leave. It's not even Kate Brooks' fault, and she's been doing a really good job of it. It's just she has to wash off the stink that wasn't even put there on her. So, like, yeah, sure, EastEnders hasn't been a world beater currently, but it's still the best soap on television. Probably, like, above Emmerdale and Coronation Street. So, just have some fucking perspective, boys. That's all I'm asking for. And, like, once they actually get us hooked, you will all say, oh, I always loved Zoe Slater, she's great. Or you just skip through all her scenes because you decide I don't like her, so I'm not going to watch it and I'm not going to give it a chance to actually make up my mind. Just... And yeah, I've probably gotten too overtly negative, and I should stop reading the subreddit occasionally. But I just want people to understand that we have it really, really good. We do. We have it really, really good. We had 3 fantastic years from Chris Glenshaw. Really rebuilt where EastEnders was. Now we have Ben Wadey given a chance on a new producer. And I like a lot of his decisions. And I like a lot of his stories. I don't necessarily believe it's taken on fully yet. I still think he kind of needs a good 6 months to a year to fully establish his vision. But I do think that we've seen a lot of really strong stuff so far. So to kind of wrap that point up, just remember that we have it really, really good. To stop fucking bitching about characters. We will find out the truth about Zoe. We will find out whether Dennis Rickman is the dad. We will find out who the person is, whether we know the twin, whether we don't, whether they've been beyond our nose all along or not. So, yeah, there we are. That's the Zoe Slater rant. I think now it's time for just some final thoughts. So let me make a little timestamp and then I will continue to get into it. All right, so the final thoughts. I thought this week was probably the best week we've had in a while. I think the fight was top tier. I think that was really, really good. I like the Dennis twist. I enjoyed Demi and Jasmine as newcomers. And all in all, I'm glad that Sharon's back. I think we're laying out the pieces where they're expected to be. And I think I think Ben Wadey's done a good job at kind of rebuilding the families, because now the Sharon, Vicky, Zach, Ross, and Joel family, I think that's now a genuinely very intriguing, genuinely exciting, proper family. I think the Mitchells are still good on their feet. I think the Brannings are good. I think the Panesars are very strong. And we are using a mix of characters who wouldn't get leading stories under Clenshaw, who are now leading stories. And, of course, I have loved what Zoe's done this week. And I think that, like I said, she is a star, and she is a leading lady, and she deserves that role, and she has absolutely earned it. And now we're finally seeing the potential that we never really got to see when she initially left. So, all in all, I think it was a genuinely very solid week. And I am very much having good fun. So yeah, a bit of a rant, fundamentally, bit of a rant, but I for one have very much enjoyed this week of EastEnders. Now it's time for the awards. If you don't know what the awards are, we give out some stupid awards every single week. We have the Chris Clenshaw Award for Most Promising. We have we have the Keanu Taylor Award of Excellence for the most wooden, because obviously Keanu is a little bit of a wet lettuce. We have Underrated for characters who should get more shine, and finally, Who Needs Slapping Down. And yeah, so first up, the Chris Clenshaw Award for Most Promising. I'm going to say the newcomers this week. I think that Demi was a really exciting piece, and I hope we see her more. And I also think Jasmine as well had a kind of not star-making performance, but she had a really good introduction. You're always eating good when your first scenes are with Cindy Beale, Elaine Peacock, and Oscar. So you have old tenured face, new kind of established, and fresh-faced newcomer. They've really established a lot of cool story so far, and I am genuinely excited to see it. And I kind of like I like Demi as well. I do want to see Demi more. I kind of like the way the Peter story has gone, but I'm just kind of, I already think Ben Wadey's been doing a better job of relationships than Chris Clenshaw ever did. So yeah, mine goes to the newcomers this week. Piggy has said, for the Chris Clenshaw, I'm going for the Sharon and Zoe stuff. He says, I'm mentioning it here as I'm really looking forward to seeing Sharon screw Zoe at the last hurdle and really fuck her over because we found out Zoe's baby daddy is Dennis. I'm excited to see where it goes and glad we have a Denwatt's grandson out there. Well, out there somewhat. So yeah, fair enough. So Piggy likes the Sharon and Zoe stuff because obviously, you know, whether Dennis is the baby daddy or not, obviously we get Sharon and Zoe scenes on tap. So I'm going to say the newcomers. For underrated, he said Peter's friend Debbie. He means Debbie. He means Demi. Underrated. I'm gonna give it Oscar Brannon his flowers again. Like, people have described it that Oscar is everything Freddie was supposed to be, but also we kind of have the weird thing where people describe Freddie Slater as before Strictly, after Strictly. Where it seems like before Strictly, he was really trying to establish himself as like a genuine actor who wanted to be there and do more. But after Strictly, when he came back, the writing was never as strong and he never looked as good. So, yeah, Oscar is tremendous. He is the best newcomer in soap. Like, overall, he is truly fantastic. Does the serious stuff well. Does the comedy fantastically. Has great reactions. He is a true darling. He is fantastic. So, I'm going to give it to Oscar Brannon. For most wooden, oh god, what do I have to say? I'm just gonna loop in mine with Piggy's, who said, Piggy says, most wouldn't. I think Peter getting frisky with Lauren immediately after talking to Debbie, because you know he got really pent up and then says, Lauren, get naked. It's like the Billy Gunn wrestler promo where he was describing what's called as like the prime WWF for the Attitude Era, where it's like, I'll get naked, you'll get naked, we'll all get naked together. It's just ridiculous. And then he also says, another answer is Vicky hitting the prime Kane, the WWE wrestler uppercut. Yeah, I will co-sign those. And finally, who needs slapping down? Probably Peter for the wedding stuff. For the surprise wedding rather than actually just courting his girlfriend or partner. And Piggy says, who needs slapping down? Cindy, stop getting in the way of Oscar and Jasmine pumping. Please, if you want a serious answer, Vicky. Also, Vicky, I'm going to give it to Vicky simply because Vicky is so ridiculous. Where she gets angry, where it's like, oh, she just wants money. Who would do that? And then the second that Sharon's about to go give Vicky like a lashing, and Sharon does slap Zoe as well. The second that Zoe's going to get some shit from Sharon, Vicky's like, I'll come, Sharon, I'll back you up. But yeah, truly one of the weeks that was pretty damn good. So I'm going to give it all of the credit in the world. But with all that said, though, do I have much for the after show? I mean, honestly, this podcast has been way longer than I thought it was going to be. So fair play to me and only me. No, after show. Just some small stuff. It's been a weird set of weeks for me because obviously I had the 2 weeks where I was cleaning for 10 hours a day, trying to get the house to look spick and span. And since that, I have probably struggled to kind of reclimatize to get comfortable again. Because when you have like a big change, and at least this may just be an autism thing, but when you get something that kind of changes how everything happens, it's kind of led to a sense of uneasiness where after spending 2 weeks cleaning for 10 hours a day, now doing everything else just feels a little bit pointless. So it's kind of cemented itself in a pretty rotten way where I was having a good time and I was going to the gym and I had all my routines all packed out, but then suddenly everything changes and then now it's taken a while to kind of acclimatize myself back into enjoying everything as I did before. But yeah, I think otherwise, I'm up to date on all the soaps for the first time in 6 months. I'm fully up to date on obviously EastEnders, Coronation Street, and Hollyoaks. Did get some fun videos made. I made the video about Christian Voice New Zealand, which was fun. Me versus religion. I made a video saying I was wrong about Coronation Street, which was also fun. And I am up to date on Hollyoaks as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's a weird place to be because it's so odd for me to think that I spent so long not being up to date on the soaps that I cover weekly. It's kind of, you get into a state of laziness with anything you do, right? Where you're like, fuck it, who cares? But no, this was really good fun. This really I think it's a genuinely solid podcast, if I say so myself. But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty content with how it's gone. It's nice to be up to date on those soaps. I've even been flirting with doing some Emmerdale stuff. I've been watching the Belle Dingle and Tom King storyline a little bit because I don't know. I always enjoy depictions of domestic abuse in soap just because I don't know. I just think it's really important to like shed light on as it is an issue that is unfortunately so very prevalent. Um, and I don't know. It's been good fun. I have been really thinking about. I've been really thinking about about Emmerdale, and I really want to get into it, but I'm also a little bit unsure. But time will tell, I suppose. But yeah, I think with all that said, though, did you like the solo podcast? Do you think I did a good job? Honestly, it's somehow about the same length as a normal podcast, so fair play. But yeah, Piggy will be back next week. He's off gallivanting in the UK this time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed his little parts in between. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how this turned out. So yeah, tell me what you thought about this podcast in the comment section down below. I've been Ash from Watching Walford. This has been Watching Walford podcast number 143, I believe. And, tell us in the comment section if you want any more. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.